The year was 2003. After releasing all of their previous films in November around the holiday season, Pixar had set course for the summer with their newest animated epic, Finding Nemo. While an original Odyssey-esque tale, the film would quickly encapsulate audiences all around the globe, as Pixar's shift to summers can be seen as quite the successful one. As in its initial run, Finding Nemo grossed $867 million at the worldwide box office. For some time, it was the highest-grossing animated film ever, and it was Pixar's until the release of Toy Story 3. This was also the second highest-grossing original film from the 2000s, just behind another movie that takes place in a big blue world. It makes a lot of sense why this broke out though. It's super heartwarming with a ton of charm and comedy sprinkled in. It also just utilizes the ocean setting so well. As Marlin travels this immense body of water, we are greeted by so many different aquatic species and so many iconic set pieces. From sharks to sea turtles, to a school of fish to jellyfish, it all helps to make this world seem so vast and potentially perilous. In the location Nemo gets to spend the majority of the film, we see another way of life, outside of a natural body of water that a fish might find themselves in, through a home or office aquarium. This squad that Nemo finds himself a part of is called the Tank Gang, and it includes the likes of Peach, Bubbles, Deb, Gurgle, Bloat, Jock, and the greatest to ever do it, Gil. They all bring their own personalities to the team and help to round out the huge cast of characters in the film. Just outside of the main three, they easily fall into the category of the next most important characters, though mainly Gil, as he has his own mentorship storyline going on. This all being said, it was a little perplexing that with the release of Finding Dory, these characters saw very little significance, only appearing as a cameo in an after-credit sequence. As a long-awaited sequel, Finding Dory opted to not retread too much familiar grounds in regards to its predecessor. We do see some returning characters, but not tying too heavily into the plot this time around. There's plenty of emotion on display, though it's with our new protagonist, Dory, and her family, while Nemo and Marlin are going on their own quest around the Jewel of Morro Bay. The interesting thing about Marlin and Nemo's entire subplot is we have an animatic and deleted scene footage for what it almost was, and that's what I'd like to take a look at today. Surprise, surprise, a deleted scene video. Luckily, per usual, we have a little bit of commentary from director Andrew Stanton, and here we find out the entire subplot made it pretty far into development, about 2.5 years actually, and why it was later scrapped, which I'll get into more later on. These scenes kick off in the abandoned shipyard, which we see in the final version of Finding Dory. They are alerted by some of the inhabitants that they're making too much noise when that bioluminescent squid makes itself known. So a panicked Dory drags the captured Marlin and Nemo quite a ways, right outside their destined location. In this unused plotline, they all try to swim to safety, with Marlin and Nemo specifically heading through some of the crates and debris, while attempting to still scout out where Dory swam off to. Dory briefly gets captured and similarly scurries away, and from this point we can already see a shift in direction in the story Marlin and Nemo would have faced. Marlin expresses some concern about the situation they found themselves in, showcasing a lot of those neurotic tendencies you'd expect from him at this point, which in all fairness makes sense. He's watching over his son, as he looks to take cover, trying to stay hidden from the squid that still lurks around them. While Marlin is worried for Nemo, Nemo is worried for Dory's fate. Another similarity with the final film, something true to his character. As Nemo's voice echoes the abandoned crate, a nearby voice in the shadows lets out the term sharkbait. As he recognizes the inflection, goes to find the source, and reunites with the Tank Gang, his old cellmates. Once again, they're all trapped, though this time in one of those 5-gallon water jugs, and there's an exciting reunion between the crew. Nemo is also finally able to formally introduce his father to his friends, who he's probably heard quite a bit about. And at first, apprehensive Marlin is excited to hear himself referred to as the famous Marlin, as his legendary journey from the first movie was the talk of the ocean for a moment there. He even wants to know what cool nickname he might have. We get to hear what all the Tank Gang has been up to through a pretty funny montage that is just like how Gil's plans were visualized in the first movie. There's some fun imagery and a lot of locations they seem to have boarded. This also would have given the audience an indication as to what's to come with this band of fish, as their reintroduction brings a new type of energy to the film. As Marlin is told to twist a champagne bottle to help them break free of the crate, they are quickly propelled to the ocean's surface and thrown into another Mission Impossible-like situation, where they board a massive ship, specifically Peach and Jock, to get the coordinates where Dory might possibly be. In Finding Dory, we already got to see a lot of unique and interesting workarounds they had for fish being able to make it from location to location. But in this scene alone, we get to see some of their most fun concepts on display. There's a chance they thought this was too similar to the getaway truck sequence at the end of the film, or they moved some of these ideas over there, I suppose. But for the Tank Gang, it does make sense, a natural, though exponential, expansion of their character. Here in the scene, they are able to pinpoint that Dory made it to the Marine Life Institute. There is a lot of suspension of disbelief behind it, but again, we are just seeing some new interactions helping us get from point A to point B. But Marlin makes a call that now takes them off course. In the selection of animatics from the cut version, you can pretty easily tell when one scene would end and cut back to the main A plot following Dory. The next cut takes us a bit later, time has passed, and now it's time for a new plan to kick into gear, with Operation Air to Sea. A fleet of flying fish approaches who are hinted to have a past relationship with the Tank Gang, and they are to escort the fish to California. How they were summoned, I have no idea, but they are like a military brigade. It's cool to see. This is a similar taking flight scenario to what we see with Becky in the final product. Marlin expresses concern with how much water they're going to be getting and the safety of such a vessel. Interestingly enough, these worries transfer over to pretty much everyone else. So really just Gil and Nemo are content with the safety conditions throughout the flight. I really like this dynamic between Gil and Marlin, and while I'll get into this more later, I do hope that we get to see this on display in some shape or form later down the line. They end up making it to the bay in one piece, but Scully and the rest of his flying fish gang are agitated as they lost a lot of their grace and formation, also likely taking up a bit more time than expected. Gil is also annoyed with Marlin for kind of leading to this. Though to be fair, they were going through some crazy weather, he did incite that initial panic, where the group now has less blind faith in Gil, it seems. We see how Marlin is a bit worried what Nemo may be thinking, though he's still content in his thought. Though in a moment's time, Gil has devised something once again, utilizing a boat just above them. While despite their earlier fears, everyone has seemed to move on and the entire gang is back and ready to take it on. Though Marlin brings up some potential issues, and while everyone starts questioning things, the boat leaves and they're out of a plan. We finally get a well-needed conversation between Gil and Marlin as he pulls him aside. Gil explains how a nickname that has been given to Marlin is Dream Crusher, mainly due to the negativity he pulls into the situations he's a part of. He mentions how as a highly regarded fish, Marlin has a lot of influence with how much he's accomplished. Gil explains how doing the ooh ha ha and whatnot will help make his team believe they can do something and they can rally, even when it seems impossible. I will say in the first film there was a little bit more individualism amongst the rest of the tank in regards to planning missions. There was a lot of hesitation and pushback about getting Nemo involved in his safety with what Gil had him doing. But at least in this version of the film, they don't seem to be fighting as much for themselves, which I wish wasn't the case, at least for all of them. I know they're in the new environment and all, but nonetheless, Marlin is assigned with their next plan. This next plan to get into the exhibits of the Marine Life Institute involves grabbing the legs of the nearby loons and steering them through the air. So this one even more so became that part of the film with Becky, though a lot less safe without the bucket. I will point out how a lot of what they have these fish doing, at least in this version we get to see them, has the fish doing a lot of grabbing and holding. In the case of this and the flying fish, it is a little bit more cartoony physics-wise than what we've seen in the franchise thus far. They would have had time to tweak these ideas if production continued with them though, but I suppose it's not too far past the idea of the fish grabbing turtle shells through the EAC. Gil forces Marlin to follow through on a pep talk for this now entitled Operation Lunacy, as everyone grows worrisome, and we get a visualized kind of graphic sequence of these characters we know getting torn apart and mangled. It's a pretty funny scene where Marlin is hyping up Bloat, Peach, and Jock, saying how capable they are and just stating how he really doesn't know what the other ones bring to the table. It is very true to his character, and again, I'll say it's just cool seeing these characters not only interact again, but with Marlin, whom they only saw from a distance and heard about. We see as a legend precedes himself, but also creates a clash and divide in an existing group with his own outlook. Marlin goes with Nemo and is hesitant to fall with the rest of the gang from the heights of the Loon, so they split up, the tank gang all landing in a cup together, and our father-son duo atop Bailey the beluga whale, right in an exhibit where they'll be able to see Dory or utilize the echolocation to find her again. This is all we have for the subplot. Would the tank gang show up again in this version of the film? It's hard to tell because I doubt they'd focus a third plot on them, as Marlin and Nemo are now getting accustomed to this new environment themselves. Maybe they'd yet again show up in an end credit scene or just the finale in some way, None of that really matters too much though, if I'm being completely honest. I think Marlin and Nemo's storyline in the film we got still works pretty well. They have something to do while not taking away too much from the Dory A-plot, which definitely would have had a lot less screen time had this very meaty storyline still taken shape. This already felt like more Marlin Nemo than we got in the final film, and they haven't even come back into contact with Dory yet. Andrew Stanton does specifically state that with this, a lot more became about Marlin, and it didn't support Dory's story, which I do think is fair. I will stand by the fact that there's a lot of great storytelling we're dealing with specifically between Gil and Marlin, with the whole optimism versus pessimism aspects of their characters, though I will say I wished Gil was challenged a little bit more in his belief system. This all would have been hard to do with Marlin himself already maybe shooting for third in screen time, considering Dory and Hank would have been penciled in at the top by this point. So trying to additionally give Gil some sort of arc while we also have Nemo and all these new characters we learn about from Dory's past, it easily could have been an overcrowded film. Also, maybe with Hank already having these Mission Impossible type getaway and covert mission scenes, it might have been overwhelming as we went from one non-stop operation mission story to another one, where at the end of the day, Dory was just able to fill in that optimist opposing ideal to Marlin, even without being directly present in each other's plots. That all being said, I do enjoy watching these deleted scenes like they're their own mini-movie. It is just fun seeing them back again and seeing what they came up with for these characters and the hijinks they get into. Like my Cars 3 alternate ending, it might be difficult for fans of the franchise to see it as a better move for the story to not go with this. Though to be honest, I doubt there's as vocal Finding Nemo fans than Cars fans in this fandom climate, but I will say it is worth holding out hope that these characters return either to the big screen or Disney Plus one day, and maybe they'll get all the time they need in the spotlight. I really think that scene just showing what they've been up to could easily be repurposed into a Lamp Life style short film. But also there have been rumors of some sort of continuation of this franchise, and Pete Docter has even stated that the ocean is a big place when discussing this franchise. So it really is a matter of when over if we get another fish movie. Now if that's with Marlin, Nemo, and Dory, who knows? Ellen isn't quite as beloved as she was when these were coming out, though the last scene we see in this universe is Gil, Bubbles, Jock, Deb, Peach, Bloat, and Gurgle all arriving to the Marine Life Institute. And even if it was just an Easter egg cameo, that's story potential right there if I've ever seen it. And they could take that whole band of fish somewhere totally off the walls just like we saw in the deleted scene today and just say the bay is where they started that journey. Even though I already love Finding Dory, which I know a lot of people aren't as fond of, and I'm super content with the storytelling decisions, this is still, of all the scenes I've looked at on my channel, the one I would have most wanted to see a finished version of. Again, if nothing more than just to see these characters more. It is really interesting to think that the returning favorites were just wholly scrapped. Like, I do get it, but I do wonder if, say, the voice actors for these characters were promised bigger roles. But also the flying fish idea I think is really smart and just another layer of versatility they came up with for navigating this world. I'd be shocked if that wasn't revisited in the future alongside quite a few of these ideas. I'd love to take this to the comments now though. Have you seen this or these deleted scenes? If so, I guess I lied in the video title, huh? No, but really, what do you think of it? Would you have liked to see it, and what do you think of the prospects of revisiting these characters or this world yet again? That is all for the video today. Thanks for taking a look at this with me as always. Let me know if there's any deleted scenes I should look into in the future, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.